All right. Good morning, everybody. This is the All About Nothing podcast kind of daily show. I am Barrett Gruber, host of the All About Nothing podcast with Zach King. You can find me on social media at Barrett Gruber. You can also follow Bill Kimler, who's here this morning, host of Black,
Good
White, and
morning.
Blue and South, with Dr. Jamil Brooks. You can follow him at politicalbillsc. I'm
going to give you a little preview of our next show.
Oh, please.
We recorded on Sunday and interviewed the organizer of the first protest in Greenwood, the 50-51 movement. Had a Greenwood for Democracy protest this past weekend, and they hadn't had a protest here in years, not since the Black Lives Matter movement anyway.
Okay.
And so a lady organized it, a couple dozen folks showed up, and boy, it generated controversy. The local paper reported on it, just a little blurb on their Facebook page, and it generated over 1,000 comments underneath from locals, back and forth. I mean, it stirred the pot. It's like much of the town was offended that there was even a protest. And then the other half were like, good for them, and I'll be at the next one. And it almost caused a little civil war. So we interviewed the organizer just to kind of go behind the scenes, because this was a first time for her. She'd never done it before. She's not a professional at this. She's still waiting on her Soros check. But it was just kind of, what was it like to organize it? What was it like to get volunteers to show up? What was it like to be there? Did she feel threatened? Did she feel hostility? Was she nervous? So we went deep into the world of organizing, because I'll tell you what, if something like that can happen here in Greenwood, South Carolina, it can happen anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I have participated in one of the 50-51 protests very shortly too, because it was the one that was at the SCEA. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
That's where you got into a fist fight with some teachers. I remember you talking about that one.
I don't know that they were teachers. They were representatives of the SCEA. That's the South Carolina Education Association, which does do good work. I think that they do they are one of two advocacy groups for South Carolina teachers, and I don't want to take away from what they do. I will take away from how they organize themselves when it comes to endorsements of candidates. And
I think as a political arm, they're very weak.
Yes,
and disorganized.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. But at least they're out there doing something. Could they do more?
They're out there endorsing Republicans who vote against their best interests. That's what they're out there doing.
That is
congratulations.
That as well. Well, that sounds like a very good episode. I look forward to that. That drops on Wednesday morning, Black, White, and Blue of the South, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Also on YouTube. You can check out their YouTube channel, because you can watch them do the show. And Bill throws clips up there that you can actually see as well. So definitely do that. We had an episode last week where we welcomed back our returning one of our returning champions, Matt Villardo.
I really enjoyed his stories about being in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
it was really fascinating. It's a world I know nothing about, and it was good to hear it from a guy who's been there several times.
We also recorded a little 10-minute blurb, I guess, segment that we are releasing exclusively to Nothingers. So
so that means I'm going to be the only one to hear it. Awesome.
You and you and a couple more. We're trying to encourage everyone to go to our website. You can go to members.theallaboutnothing.com. You become a member, and you do get exclusive content. We do this show, and we release this show, so you don't have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. You can watch it on YouTube later. You can also go and listen to it, because we release it as audio. But if you become a member, then you have access to these shows all the time. And we did a little recording, Bill and Matt and I, specifically about the subject of the woman in Georgia who is basically being left alive as an incubator for the child. The family has.
So let me get this right. 3 middle-aged white men talked about an African-American woman who's in a coma and pregnant. Okay. Or brain dead, I should say, not just in a coma, but literally brain dead.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, good. Can't wait to hear those really deep insights that the three of you came up with.
I was shocked by our take on this.
Listen, I say that in jest, because I'm sitting here talking about the same damn subjects. And everybody, everybody should be talking about it. It is an absolutely morbid and insane state intrusion on the dignity of dying,
Yeah.
for God's sake.
Yeah. The fact that the state of Georgia has basically taken claim over someone's life in the sense of not an inmate or a prisoner or someone on death row that has sentenced to death, but someone now that whose life has basically ended, but they're keeping her alive just to bring about the birth of a child who,
In a
according to
couple of months. I mean, we're
yeah,
not talking like this was an 8.5 month
yeah,
fetus here. This is 4th month, 5th month, and they got a long ways to go.
I want to say I think that she was 9 weeks pregnant when
Okay, I don't even know the
basically,
number. So
yeah,
so
I
that's
want to,
even more ridiculous.
yeah,
And I'll tell you what the greatest insult might be. How much do you want to bet that the family is going to incur the bill for
not
keeping her alive that entire time?
that isn't even one of the things I'm most uncomfortable with. It's the fact
Mm.
that scans have shown that the child has fluid on the brain,
Oh, that's right.
and that this is a child that if it survives birth, that the likelihood is that this is going to be a child that has no real sustainable life. And the likelihood is, I think I saw it was like a 12% chance that the child survives through birth. But you're looking at a very, very difficult life for this child. The expense
Well,
that
listen,
the
are you
families
essentially giving away all the content that you recorded in this little special episode? Are you rehashing the whole thing right now for free?
no, 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 no,
Okay.
no, no. But anyway, so that the whole point, yeah, become a member, and you too can have access. Members.theallaboutnothing.com. You can go check that out. Bill, I had a really weird dream, and I don't know that if it's anxiety based. I don't know what exactly is going on, but in this dream, uh, it was today. Like it was today, and I overslept and missed recording this morning, but had somehow forgotten that you and another gentleman who had very long hair were coming to record the show live this afternoon at my in-office studio. And you came with your guitar, he came with his drum set, and basically you all were going to be debuting your new album. I also slept through work in this dream today.
So you had a mixture of anxiety dream
Yeah.
and an absolute fantasy. Because no, I don't play guitar. I don't play any instrument.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know
Wow.
that, but
Who do you know that has long hair that I might be partnered with in your studio?
um the only person I can think of is Clark Villardibo, Matt Villardibo's son.
Right?
That's Ami's husband, Michael. He's got long hair.
Right?
I besides that, like in my head, I can't
Was
think
it
of
Jesus
anyone.
Christ himself? Maybe
Okay, so I
we formed a band.
I don't want this to come across the wrong way. I don't know Jesus like that. He may have long hair, he may not. I'd like I'd like to think that he liked to keep himself a little bit clean haired, clean whatever.
Oh, I
Uh,
see. He's got to conform to your, American standards.
hold on,
I
hold on.
gotcha.
Hol-
All right.
Isn't that all Christianity is making
Right.
Jesus conform to whatever
I think
standards
I'm going to
people
sit you
want?
down and we'll sketch out Gruber Jesus, see what that looks like.
I did, yesterday there was some disappointing news that came out that President Biden has been diagnosed with a very aggressive form of prostate cancer. Um, the thing that I don't want to focus on uh, the negative. I do kind of. There were some very hot takes, and this comes in the wake of today Jake Tapper's book, basically going into how he and the author from Axios have basically broken down how uh, everyone knew that Biden was in some pretty severe cognitive decline. I don't know that I still believe that. This is a book written by two people that have a book to sell, that they have something to sell. But my take on that is if you all had evidence, if Jake Tapper and this other author from Axios had this evidence that Biden was in some severe cognitive decline, I understand selling a book, but dude, you're a report. Both of you are reporters. Like, why wouldn't you release that information when you had it? Why would you wait for us to sell a book? I don't
Well,
get it.
that's also true of the 24 post-Trump presidency books that came out. I mean,
Exactly.
they all came out with shocking revelations that they knew about for years. And why wouldn't you release it then? But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to rehash something that most of the country believed anyway.
Right.
So where's the shock? I mean, I think if they came out with some revelation that, Biden was doing nuclear physics in the basement of the White House, that would be more of a revelation, right? That'd be more of a shock,
Yeah.
something people did not expect.
Yeah.
But to say that he was confused or that people tried to cover up, I saw Biden in person in January of last year, and he gave a 15-minute speech right in front of me. Sure, there might have been a teleprompter involved, but the delivery, the way he interacted with the audience, the way he stood for hours and shook hands and greeted people and talked with everybody one-on-one, he seemed like a perfectly capable 80-year-old man. I mean, he seemed fine.
Yeah.
And anybody who's taken care of an elderly person or had somebody in their family who's gone through it realizes that you could have very lucid days and you could have difficult days.
Yeah.
And it really can depend. So could all the stuff in this book be true? Possibly, possibly not. End of the day, doesn't matter. We've got a Trump presidency that is unraveling this nation, completely going off the rails. I read a report today that they have accidentally deported over 50 Venezuelan immigrants who were here legally to the El Salvador prison based on no evidence, based on no due process.
Yeah.
And right now they're just brazenly doing it in the face of judicial rulings. Who cares? I mean, who cares about the Biden book? And I'm glad Tapper released it on the day Biden announces he has cancer. I'm glad, because that just makes him look really small, really weak, and I hope that book tanks.
I do too. Also, we found out yesterday that the family of Ashley Babbitt, this was the service member. Yeah, I know that she received. That her family is received. The Trump administration basically has handed out a $5 million settlement of some sort to the family of Ashley Babbitt. This also comes after the Justice Department had cleared Officer Lieutenant Michael Byrd of any wrongdoing in her death. So, how do you have no wrongdoing, but then a settlement to pay the family of the woman that was forcefully and aggressively trying to gain access to a facility, the Capitol, with law enforcement telling them to stop, forcibly trying to stop them, and her coming through a window that has been very recently busted in an attempt to gain access? How do you settle anything, because there was no wrongdoing? She was, at least on the part of
What I want to know is, where is Elon Musk and Doge
he's
to come
out.
out about wasteful spending? Because this is your tax dollars
Yeah.
that have now gone to pay the family of a violent criminal who committed a crime and lost her life because of it.
Yeah.
And now we're paying them off. Yeah, okay.
It doesn't. We are in bizarro world. Like Superman is exterminating people in this world. I guess that's kind of what we're doing.
Well, I've just started planting hints to my son, saying, "Hey, boy, right now, if you go over to that old Capitol building, knock on a few doors, bust a few windows, you could leave your family in a good spot afterwards."
Little $5 million. Well, I tend to caution the outcome of what would potentially happen to him. But if you're encouraging such things, I have a list of people that are probably gullible enough to try something like that. Maybe we could avoid family members, but somehow still cash in on any available settlements from the Trump administration. That wouldn't be too bad. To go back a little bit to the diagnosis that was discussed or that was released yesterday, um, I was I didn't really have a reaction to Trump's release on Truth Social. Basically, he was very cordial. He said he wished that he hoped for a quick, speedy recovery. He
I
didn't say
I
anything.
I gotta stop you right there on the assumption that he wrote that.
I don't think he did. I don't assume
There's
that.
it contains no all caps words. It contains no misspellings. It contains no thank you for your attention to this matter statement
Yeah.
at the end. Like I don't know who he's
Yeah.
talking to.
And then you can tell it wasn't him because as soon as he had the opportunity in front of a camera to say anything about it, he said that Biden had stage 9 cancer,
Yeah.
which is not is not any term that the medical community uses to describe levels of cancer. It's a little odd. So the term doesn't exist in medical staging. Instead, it appears Trump conflated the score. It's called a Gleason score, by the way, to measure cancer's aggressiveness with a aggressiveness. Biden's Gleason score was 9, indicating a highly aggressive form of cancer, but a cancer is classified as stage 4 when it's the most aggressive. so, so it's like, and ultimately, the people that are really the big supporters of Trump won't see that as being an inconsistency in Trump. They'll be like, oh, well, now there should be a stage 9 cancer. Like, I am constantly taken back because I guarantee you the people I know that are Trump supporters, that are avid Trump supporters, will come forward and be like, well, stage 9 obviously is he's giving him credit, or he's trying to let us know just how severe it is by even just making up a term. And it's like, or maybe he is also in cognitive decline and doesn't recognize the difference between the number 9 and the number 4. I don't know. It's
On a
amazing to
severe
me.
case of Trump derangement syndrome, there was one MAGA activist online who said, I'm going to have a controversial take, but I have zero sympathy for a president who locked down the country, refused people admittance to see their relatives that were dying of COVID, who forced people to die alone and in pain by themselves.
Does he not realize who he's talking about?
And this was a she, actually. But yeah, people came and says, "Hey, dummy, that was under Trump.
Yeah,
That occurred for a full year of Trump's presidency. What you just described."
Trump locked down the country.
Yeah,
Trump closed the schools. Trump closed the churches. That
this
was
is the
Trump.
derangement syndrome that's out there. That just because it happened so long ago, I can understand why people's memories are fuzzy.
It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, but good luck engaging in civil discourse with those individuals.
Well, I've told you before, and I allude to it very little on the show, exactly the type of relationships that I have, or what the specific relationships that I have with certain individuals, family members, especially, that are of the most deranged Trump supporters. But I think that I have had to take a turn when it comes to my level of communication with them, because I don't go out of my way to discuss politics with people that I know. I'm not looking for someone to agree with me, but I know that I can't have that civil conversation with some people.
Let me
So
shock you with this. You know this about me, that I am a kidney donor. I'm a living
yeah,
kidney donor. And in 2021, donated a kidney to a relative, a distant relative that I didn't know so well, but a relative. And this was a 50, late 50s, early 60s woman who was in her last moments. And the kidney really gave her many years, at least, on life. Guess who I had to discontinue all communication with?
oh no,
Because of the dive off the deep end, because I was receiving text messages about every little thing Trump was doing and how glorious it was. I had this person come into my Facebook timeline. A friend of mine from high school couldn't have children, and so she adopted two two boys from Venezuela, as a matter of fact. No, Guatemala. Sorry, wrong country. She adopted two boys from Guatemala. They're now grown men coming out of college. But she had expressed on my Facebook page how nervous she was with these, people being grabbed off the street, deported without any due process. And she was
Yeah.
scared for her boys because they look very South American. And this kidney recipient relative of mine came on and laughed at her concern. You're laughing at a mother's concern, whether you agree with it or not. She laughed at a mother's concern and then said something hateful about it. And so I was like, you know what? That was the last straw. You have
That's
no
awful.
empathy. You have no ability to sympathize with anybody else's worry. It's all about you. And you're going to sit here and argue policy when a mother is concerned about her kids. So I had to cut off communication, and it is what it is.
And they want this empathy for this supposed fear of the books that are going to indoctrinate their children, or the potential that they would stumble their way into a library where there's a drag queen book reading going on or something like that. And then, like, they want sympathy for the emotions that they supposedly feel over these things. And I'm floored by the fact that in a situation, a legitimate situation, that the fact that they can't themselves recognize is genuine to someone else, and can't just either keep their mouths shut so their keyboards off, or they can't just say, you know what, I hate to hear you're feeling that way, and move on. Like, in my scenario, it's a family member who's close enough that they visit often. And when something is brought up, again, not by me, I don't try to jump into these conversations on a basis that on a regular basis with individuals like that. But like, something will be brought up, and it'll genuinely, I'll say, well, I fear for what my children were going to go through, white children, of course. I don't know why I assumed I had to say that. But that I'm what their future is going to look like under the potential of what could be, and a very authoritarian state progressing out forward. And the individual would just say, well, it's going to be a better world anyway under that state. You don't have to make all your own decisions anymore. And it's like, but that isn't even the Republican Party that you supported 15 years ago. 15 years ago, you would have balked at the idea that the government was making decisions for you. And now you're like, no, they should make those decisions. This is what the government's for. And it's like, that isn't what this government was for. But
so on another upcoming episode of Black, White, and Blue in the South,
yeah,
we actually did a double recording this past weekend. We recorded 2 episodes. We did the Gruber method, where you record an episode in advance.
okay,
So the second episode we recorded was with another local resident who was a Republican operative for decades, was the chair of the local Republican Party, had worked for Republican governors in South Carolina, knew all the big Republican players. I mean, this was a mover and shaker. And he had a premise that today's Republicans are not conservative. And he had a very brilliant argument about it. And he also had, he was also the first person in South Carolina to violate the Heritage Act.
really?
And so, whatever that is, and what did he do? Well, you have to tune into our show to find out. But it was a fascinating interview, talking about the change in conservative world and Republican politics over the decades and how it's unrecognizable. But I'll tell you a different story. I'm reading a book now, and I truly forget the name of the book. I'll have to share it with you afterwards. But this person's going through history into the late 50s, early 60s, the McCarthy era, and the anti-communism scare. And what they're talking about there with fringe Republicans putting out lies and mailers and fundraising off of it and getting into power and hijacking the Republican Party. My God, Barrett, it was almost as word for word what is going on these past few years. You could take that book, and do copy replace McCarthy with Trump and other names throughout. This guy with Stephen Miller and this guy with that.
Yeah.
And you end up with the same story. So this is very cyclical. And all we have to do, I think, is survive it. And then there's some good things going to come out of the other end.
Well,
We
and
just have to wait and see.
yeah, that's one of those things that we go through this cyclical session. Like it's about 110, 112 year cycle that we go through it's
I think with technology, we've sped it up to every 50 years, every 40 years.
potentially. I would not argue that. I could absolutely see that being the case. But yeah, but we go through these cycles and we go through these very I guess almost Eden like situations with the United States where we're way up. The economy's great, people are being taken care of, the government is working for the people, and then people see that maybe they get this impression that some people are being taken care of better than other people or themselves or whatever, and then we just start to slope this, and they pull themselves along. And what's crazy is, so someone did a comparison, and we'll just make it brief, but someone did a comparison where the good times and the low times are almost completely reversed by people's recognition, or I guess attachment to uh, religion. And so they do this. There's this back and forth. The United States has gone through periods where we've seen fewer people going to church, and it was in those higher times. And then somehow the evangelical church has always been able to bring people back in by acknowledging the differences between individual groups and things like that. And there was a whole documentary. I'll have to see if I can find it, but it was extremely interesting. And I don't know that all of their numbers are factual. I don't know if the whole thing is real as far as what it was that they were trying to say, but the idea of it kind of plays out accurately in my head, is this dependency on the government versus this dependency on God. And it would just go back and forth a whole lot. So it was a really interesting take. I'll have to see if I can find that documentary. It was good. I'll send it to you. But I agree, because we'll go through this bad period and we will find our way out of it. I would really like for us to find some sort of equilibrium where we don't have to go through these cycles anymore. If I were some omnipotent being that could create the most ideal situation, it would be Star Trek. it would be.
I would be very concerned if Barrett Gruber were an omnipotent being.
Oh, really?
Because you would have the Falcons and the Braves win every championship every year.
No.
It just would not be a good world. There'd be no room for the Philadelphia Eagles or other much more brilliant teams.
Look, well, okay. I don't. Everything would be the draft. The draft would be better because teams, we wouldn't have. Also, I would do away with.
I'm sorry, we're out of time as we explore Gruber's godhood. I'm sorry, we're out of time here. We can't go deeper into this hole.
I'll just say free agency's done.
That'll be your first act as Gruber God.
Hell yeah! I'm tired of these players getting to I want them to do.
Would you cancel the transfer portal too while you're at it?
No, absolutely not. I think college players, if college players are bringing billions and billions of dollars in for the NCAA, and these schools are reaping the benefits of having better players, using their schools to promote products and Gatorades and whatever.
Well, I just find it interesting that your first act would be to go after free agency, not childhood cancer, not global wars, not the environment. You're going to go after free agency. So, listen, okay, Gruber God, I see your priorities.
You humans have a lot of things to learn about suffering.
Oh, I could not wait for AI to summarize this episode. I think we may have broken its brain.
Well, on that bombshell, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Big thanks for everybody tuning in. Don't forget, you can follow me at Barrett Gruber and Mr. Bill here at politicalbillsc across all social media. You can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern right here. And any final thoughts real quick?
No more thoughts. I'm out of
Yeah, me
thoughts.
neither.
Thoughts are done for the day.
I may have abused Bill. Until next time, you all stay safe, be kind, and keep your hands to yourself. Yeah, free agency for sure. Absolutely.